All right, everybody. I think we're going to get started. It couldn't be a more beautiful day. What a beautiful spot and beautiful weather for this really great occasion. Very, very happy to be here on behalf of Mercy Housing. My name is Doug Shoemaker. I'm the president of Mercy Housing California. For those of you that don't know Mercy Housing, we're a nonprofit affordable housing provider. We develop, own, manage, and provide services in buildings throughout California and actually throughout the country. And we're very, very active in the Bay Area and throughout California, and especially happy to be here in this beautiful location to mark this really important day. The challenge, that is before us from affordable housing is really familiar to all of you. So when we get occasions to celebrate the tremendous outcomes that we get here, we take the moment, we really revel in it, because as we know, the situation is really tough in the Bay Area and throughout California right now. But this is a day to celebrate and not necessarily to bemoan everything else that's going on. We've got a tremendous, this building is just so beautiful. I'm really thrilled with the way it turned out. I can't thank the city and everyone else involved. This county and everyone else involved, sorry. I'm very used to saying the city, so it's not an insult. It was just slip of the tongue. For all the tremendous support. We have some amazing champions of affordable housing in Alameda County, but there are very clearly very few that could compare to Supervisor Wilma Chan, who has been a champion not just for this project, but really for the broader issue of affordable housing. She was an early champion of the bond that went on the Alameda County ballot, Measure A1, which was $580 million, which will make a big difference on affordable housing throughout the Bay Area. And I know she needs no introduction, but I would like to bring you Supervisor Wilma Chan.
Thank you, Doug, and good morning. What a lovely day and what a great celebration. You're probably going to hear a little bit more about the project from other people, so I won't go into all the details, including you're going to hear from a resident because everyone's already moved in. But just so that you know, there's more than 61,000 seniors who live in the San Lorenzo, Castro Valley area. And of course, in the county, the senior population is going to grow to about 260,000 by the year 2020. And as you know, rents have also skyrocketed, more than double. And people aren't supposed to have to spend more than 30% of their income on rent, but we have people spending 50, 60, 70% of their income on rent and have no money left for their medications, for their foods, and all these other things. So this project is just great. It's affordable, it's beautiful, and it also has services connected to it. So I don't know if they're going to tell you, but there are 77 residents, and there were over 800 applications, which shows how great the need is for this type of building, and hopefully we can do more in the future. The other unique thing about this project is over 50% went to San Lorenzo connected residents. There was an open lottery, but we gave preference to people from this area because people who have lived here a long time but had to sell their house or move to a different place. We wanted them to have a place to go that they were familiar with. As you know, it's just a short walk to the grocery store, to a lot of conveniences, to some restaurants on this side. So it's really, really great. It's part of a larger effort that our office has undertaken to revitalize the community. And $15 million of the funding of this project, which was $26 million, came from the county, from the former redevelopment agency. As you will recall, in 2012, the state grabbed all the redevelopment money from every city and every part of the state. And in Alameda County, I think we're the only county that set aside $90 million, which went to the general fund, to ensure that projects like this and Hesperian Boulevard and the library would be built. So our board, I think, really wanted to support the unincorporated areas, and particularly those processes that had already started, because what would it be like if the money was taken away and planning had started and people had been meeting for years, and because the state took the money away, we wouldn't be able to build this. That would have been absolutely a shame. So I'm really happy to be here for the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Arbor Hesperian. And in conclusion, I do want to thank, there were a whole bunch of people to thank, but I want to thank the San Lorenzo Village Homes Association because, when it was under construction, there was a little disruption and there were parking issues, and we got through it. Construction was actually very quick. I want to thank the Mercy Housing Advisory Committee, which was composed of local residents and they helped share insights on the project, on the architectural plans, construction impact on the neighborhood, the selection process for the residents, and integrating the Arbor into the larger community. So it's a great day, and we hope to do many other projects with the A1 funding, and you're going to hear, I think, more details of the project. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor. And I want to echo the thanks to the Housing Advisory Committee and to the San Lorenzo Village Homes Association. We're looking forward to many years of relationship together. This is just the beginning, but we really appreciate everything that everyone has done to make this project possible so far. I also want to acknowledge a couple people that are here. I want to acknowledge Edward Mora, hopefully I got that right, from Congresswoman Eric Swalwell's office, very important. Usually I go into this later, but since the congressman's representatives here, we'll just say it, which is this is a very unusual project for the reasons that the supervisor mentioned. Ordinarily, we have tons of different funding sources, but because of the end of redevelopment and the generosity of the county, this really only has two major sources, and one is the low-income housing tax credit, which is a very, for most people, a very obscure thing. What the heck's the low-income housing tax credit, and what does this have to do with this beautiful building? Well, it turns out that is the principal way the federal government actually gets money to build affordable housing. And so people often wonder, what are my taxes paying for? You may not love everything that your taxes pay for, but hopefully you love what this is. And I want to thank the congressman who's been a tremendous supporter of this program. Incredibly important right now because as tax reform is being discussed at the national level, we're just trying to remind folks, because sometimes things happen in tax reform that you don't expect to happen or don't intend to happen. And so it's tremendous to have a congressman that's as supportive as Congressman Swalwell for this very important program. So if you ever speak to the congressman or his aide, just remember that to thank him for the low-income housing tax credit at every possible opportunity. Thanks. I'm sure every one of you has written that down, so I'll be quizzing people later. Gonzalo, you can start. Great. I also want to thank Mayor Emeritus Sheila Young, who's here with us, and the president of the sanitary district. She assures me that we're going to have the lowest rates and the best service in the state, if not the county, or the county, if not the state. The state, okay, we're ready, we're set, we're happy to have that. The chair of our board real estate committee for Mercy Housing, Fort Fish. And there are going to be other people I thank in a minute, but I want to take the opportunity to just introduce Chris Bazar. As again, I said earlier, like it is an extreme pleasure when we have a partner like we did here in Alameda County. I'm sure, Chris, you're going to thank your staff, and I'll thank them again after you're done. But we really incredibly impressed by the partnership here and the work that was done, as well as the incredible amount of money that was devoted to this project. I think absolutely and totally worth it, and we can't thank you enough for rescuing the money and then deploying it this way. So, Chris.
Thank you to Doug, and thank you to the San Lorenzo community and to Mercy for having us here today. We're thrilled after this long story that really goes back to 2011. And I'm here today because I actually don't do the heavy lifting. I want to acknowledge my staff right up front. We had our planning department involved, we had our housing department involved, but particularly our former redevelopment agency, which we have rebranded in recent years. It's now Economic and Civic Development, and it is a smaller staff, but still led by our dynamic leader of that department, Eileen Dalton. I know many of you know Eileen. I want to not only acknowledge her, but her staff. Jamie Orfanis is here, and Marita Heruliak, who is about to retire. So if you see Marita today, be sure to offer to take her out later or something, because this is probably her swan song after many ribbon cuttings over the years. So let me expand slightly on the story that Supervisor Chan gave you earlier, because it was really quite dramatic. We're in 2011. We, as a relatively young redevelopment agency, were just starting to have the necessary funding to get a whole slew of unincorporated area projects underway. And at that exact moment, the Great Recession hits, and the state decides that they're going to disband redevelopment. So we are in a huge spot. We have a whole collection of projects, and literally the last project to make it through the various hurdles and get approved by the state and utilize redevelopment money was this project. And the way that that happened wasn't even as simple as you might hope. The Board of Supervisors had allocated the roughly $15 million for this project. However, the State Department of Finance, some of you I'm sure dealt with this in the crazy days after redevelopment was first dissolved. We would go through these extensive processes with the state, and the Department of Finance in particular was vigilant in saying no to virtually everything. And I have to tell you, I saw Supervisor Chan personally interface with the Department of Finance in a way that, you know, I've been doing this over 20 years. I have literally never seen a situation where the state DOF reversed the decision, but they explicitly on this project did that. And I have to tell you, I think it's her personal efforts that got us to this point, so I really want to thank Wilma for that. As Supervisor Chan also mentioned, we had over $90 million, or up to $90 million, that the Board of Supervisors, particularly led by Supervisor Chan, authorized for unincorporated projects in general, which was extremely exceptional, unusual in the post-redevelopment context. So some other projects in this immediate area, including the Hesperian Boulevard Streetscape project and some other things that are pretty close by, are going to happen. And I really think there is a lot of vision from our board to make this project and other nearby projects happen even after redevelopment went away. So as a planner at heart, I am thrilled to see that happen. I'm also just thrilled about the context of this area. Ever since I was a pretty young planner, we've been trying to figure out ways to revitalize the heart of San Lorenzo. As a planner, this is thrilling to me. You probably all know this is an old San Lorenzo post office site. It was no longer being utilized. It's a fantastic setting, as Supervisor Chan mentioned, next to the grocery store, the postal annex, restaurants and banks. This is really the heart of what was a very dynamic community, and we know in the future will be an increasingly dynamic community again. We've got the library now with its new annex next door, the Village Homes Association also quite nearby. So I think the senior-focused programming and activities will just be fantastic for the residents of this project. And as I mentioned, we have lots of improvements happening right out in Hesperian Boulevard. We've got new crosswalks and sidewalks to help safe pedestrian access in that area. We also just, if you look at the overall benefits to what's going to happen in this area through this project and other improvements, I think, you know, this is an area that we hate to use the word blight, and I'm not saying that's appropriate, but I think it's certainly an area that needed dramatic reinvestment and revitalization, and I think this facilitates that. It provides safe, healthy, and affordable housing, which, as Doug and others have mentioned, is just our mantra these days. There's nothing more important to the Bay Area in general, and I think particularly for our growing senior population, we just desperately need this. So we're thrilled to have a project like this that's not only affordable housing for seniors, but better health, better quality of life for the community, and just to deal with a desperate existing shortage of affordable housing for this population. And we're just thrilled to be partners with you, Doug, so thank you.
Okay. So one of the things I think that I was told, I've got my talking points here, and they have an assemblage of random facts. But one of them that I really am happy about, and Chris described earlier, is there are 100 trees that were planted as part of this. So I think about, you know, some of the things people sort of wonder, well, I'm a neighbor, what are my benefits? And hopefully this is something that you see, not only just the trees, but also the fact that your neighbors and people that you know from San Lorenzo moved in here. So as the supervisor mentioned, we had 800 people apply, which is very typical for us. Sometimes we have thousands of people apply, depending on where it is. But through our work with the county and the hard work of our staff, over 50% of the folks that moved into this building were from San Lorenzo. So that is tremendous. I mean, I know it took a lot of work to make that possible, but when it works like that, that's just really tremendous, and I hope you look around and see people that you know from your community. We often talk about the fact that one of the hardest things about the Bay Area right now is it's really hard if your parents are aging and you want to figure out how they can stay close to you, or if your kids are growing up and you want them out of the house, you don't know how to say it. You can't send them here, by the way. But kids, you can send your parents here, but that's a different story. But no, it's just tremendous that when we have these opportunities and then it turns out the way we're all hoping for in this regard. There are, of course, a lot more people to thank. I do want to thank Scott Bohannon, who sold us this land and made it possible for us to develop on this site. It's really tremendous. It is always hard to develop housing for affordable housing. You always need a friendly land seller that is committed to the work that you're doing, and we want to thank Scott and the Bohannon family for their help in making this happen. Also, thank you. You're on it. You got me. I just need cues. I'm going to look at you now for now, whenever I should stop. Okay, great. And I also want to thank all of our staff. There are a lot of Mercy Housing staff folks. If you could just raise a hand, I'm only going to call out a few people. Everything at Mercy is sort of a group project, but there are some people in particular I want to thank. Our property manager, Mary Ben, who's here somewhere. I'm sure many of you know her. There she is, hiding behind the door. Kyle Little, who I just met, our new resident service coordinator. He's somewhere. Kyle. There he is in the back. Hopefully you get to know them. Our project manager, Helen Lee, I saw her just show up. I think she's inside. She's given birth to this project and an actual child, although not necessarily in that order, and I won't ask her which she loves more. But Helen, congratulations on both things. And Helen was supported by lots of people, including Barbara and Nick and Amy and Jennifer. I want to thank you all. I want to thank the great architects that we worked with in many cases. If you like the design, you can thank Mercy. If you don't like it, Fred Pollock is in the back no. He did a tremendous job, and his staff. They've done so many beautiful buildings for us, and I hope you agree this is just another great example. I want to thank the county planning department. I know this was a challenge to get through in the time period that we did, and could not have done it without the folks in the planning department. And then the folks from our management company in the back. Maureen is in the back. She'll tell you she deserves all the credit for getting this leased up. No, I'm just teasing. We deploy Maureen. She's like our special ops to make sure that we get buildings leased up in time, and she never lets us down. And in this case, tremendous job getting this building leased up. And as I said, all the wonderful local residents and others that have been able to move in. And thanks to all the folks at the management company for making that happen. Believe it or not, it's a really complicated project to get people into these buildings. So with that, we only have a couple more speakers. We are fortunate at Mercy in that we work very consistently with a group of investors and lenders that are very familiar with our work and continue to take chances. This particular on us, which we don't think we're much of a risk, but in the lending community, it's all about risk management. And we have tremendous folks from Wells Fargo Bank that we worked with over the years. I see Lori and John, and I want to bring up Tim McCann as a speaker. And just again to acknowledge, I don't know what percentage of our work occurs with Wells Fargo. It's a lot, and it's because they do such a tremendous job supporting these projects and really make a big difference for us. So Tim.
I have a lot to talk about today. Actually, it's just one page, but it looks like a credit approval. Against my better judgment, I just want to tell a funny story just about affordable housing. I hardly ever open with a joke, but I've been in affordable housing since 1988, and this is a beautiful project, a beautiful community, and we're so thankful to work with Mercy Housing again. But a couple years ago, I was at an event not unlike this. Hi. A couple years ago, I was at an event like this, and there was a retired congressman from California who spoke. And he was talking about affordable housing, and he likened affordable housing to himself. And he said, affordable housing is a lot like myself, highly desirable and not enough to go around, which I thought was kind of funny. And this and that's true in that it's highly desirable and not enough to go around. And this is such a beautiful community. I'm thankful to be a part of it. Anyhow, so that was the joke portion of our show. So I'm Tim McCann. I work for Wells Fargo. And Wells Fargo on this community was the construction lender. And I want to have a shout out just to John Coe and Lori Sato. We were also the permanent lender, who the same team, and the investor. And at the end of the day, we have about $12 million invested in this community. At Wells Fargo, I'm part of the community lending and investment team. And we formed this group about 8 years ago. It's a national department that's sole mission is to invest in affordable housing throughout the country. And a few months ago, an accounting firm did a study on affordable housing and determined that Wells Fargo was not surprising to me, was the largest investor in affordable housing in the country. We have about $9 billion worth of investments in affordable housing in our communities. And because I'm in charge of California, I think we're the largest annual investor in California as well. And we're really pleased to be part of this community. And what this community, Arbor at Hesperian, we called it San Lorenzo when I was working on it 2 years ago. But this community is providing 77 units of affordable housing. It's decent, needed, safe, affordable housing, and we're glad to be a part of it. I also want to thank my financing partners, the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee, which is the committee that allocates the credits, and also the Alameda County Redevelopment Agency, who also provided a bunch of financing in this deal. And I especially want to thank Mercy Housing Inc. I don't mean to repeat everything Doug said, but I wanted to thank Barbara Gualco, Helen Lee, who was the project manager, Nick and Daniel, and especially the senior management. I want to thank Jen Graff, Doug Shoemaker, Ed Holder, and everybody at Mercy Housing. I also want to thank everybody. I want to be humble about this. We provide financing, but it takes hundreds of people to make affordable housing come to the ground and get built. And we're providing financing, the oxygen to make it work. But I really appreciate everybody's hard work to not only getting this to the ground, but also making sure that it works properly. In closing, thank you so much, Mercy Housing, for partnering with us. Wells Fargo has had a relationship with Mercy Housing for 20 or 30 years. I personally have been working on Mercy Housing projects in various capacities in the industry since 1992, and we really appreciate the partnership of Mercy Housing. Thank you so much.
I'm feeling the need to roam through the crowd and ask personal questions now that I have this mic, so I'm going to put it down. I keep making outdated Phil Donahue references. Maybe this crowd would get it. All our millennials are like, who's Phil Donahue? So, she's the Oprah of her day, or he was. A couple people I left out. I want to acknowledge Steve Vettel, our fabulous land use attorney who worked hard on this and many other projects. He can tell you what he did over stiff drinks. And Gonzalo Castro, who's hiding in the back row, who has been our construction manager on many, many sites. He makes sure that every single thing that was supposed to be in is in and looking the way it's supposed to. So we're pretty much at the end. We have the most important speaker coming up in my mind. Most people when they come to these events, they really don't want to hear from me, so I try and make it quick. What they really want to hear about is sort of who are the people that moved in and what are their lives like and what is this building about? So I just had the great opportunity to talk to Faye for a second. I know a little bit about her. I'm going to hear a lot more, and I'm looking forward to it. So I want to introduce the newest resident, or one of the newest residents, not to this town, but to this building, and that's Faye Rubin.
Good morning. My name is Faye Rubin, and I'm happy to be a resident at the Arbor of Hesperian. I moved to Alameda County in 1964 and had family as well as myself living in this quaint city for a number of years. For 25 years, I sold real estate. So I've been able to help many families buy homes in San Lorenzo. Through the work that I've done in the community, I feel very much a family member of San Lorenzo. At 74, I found that I had to sell my home for more affordable housing. As I began to research county housing, Section 8 vouchers, and other affordable options, I heard about the Arbor through family members. After getting more information and finding that I qualified under the San Lorenzo preference, I began working to get on the wait list. After much work, my application was approved, and then I waited for the lottery, praying I would get a low number. Thanks to my San Lorenzo 3-point preference, I received that low number. I was one of the first residents to move in. The surroundings in this community is impeccable. I love the building. You don't have to leave the village for any needed services, banks, stores, restaurants. Most needs can be met within walking distance. After living in many areas of Alameda County, this area to me is strictly the best. When I step off the elevator on my floor and I look at the bright lights coming in from the glass windows, It's beautiful. It's like walking down through the airport. It feels good to see how much heart went into this building. To continue to give to this community, I assist the resident service coordinator with the distribution of the Alameda County Food Bank. I am thrilled that I could find affordable, elegant housing available to me. I thank Supervisor Chan and the Alameda County staff for working with Mercy Housing to bring affordable senior housing to San Lorenzo. I am happy that the San Lorenzo community can benefit from affordable, comfortable, and beautiful housing and the resident services that goes with it. Thank you guys for all coming out and helping us to celebrate our grand opening today.
Thanks so much, Faye. So in conclusion, I would just want to thank everybody for everything you did to get us to this moment. I want to thank everybody for all that you're going to do in the future, because we're neighbors to each other. And I hope that the experience here, I know there are tremendous, great people in Alameda County working on this issue, trying to use that money around. And one of the things that you could do as you leave here today is if you really like what you see, tell a friend. Because that's the way we make sure that we get in front of this issue and makes it that much easier the next time the supervisor or someone wants to champion a project. If they know that you've seen what the final product looks like and you're happy with it, because that in some ways is as hard as getting the money, is to make sure that people are supportive of the work. So I know it takes tremendous political will to get through this. I want to thank, again, the supervisor and the county staff for helping us make that happen. I want to thank everybody here, and enjoy the rest of the day, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Okay, everyone, come in a little closer. That's great. Okay. Let's get the scissors. Okay, and then are we ready to cut?
We are ready.
Woohoo! Okay, go ahead. Woo!
All right.
Good job.
Yeah, they do.